Hey, good morning, everyone. LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook. Good morning. Morning. We're going to get the show started in just a bit. Thank you for joining us this morning. I know you have lots of options of who you can spend your morning with these days, with all of us still on quarantine and lockdown for the most part. So thank you for your attention. We're going to start the show in just a little bit. Today, I'm joined by Mike Madero. Sir, how are you this morning?
Doing well, doing well.
What are you drinking this morning?
Oh, just some coffee, like most everybody else.
Yeah. Awesome. Any special kind of coffee, or just whatever you have?
I'm not sure what the brand is, but I'm sure it's Shade Tree, Fair Trade, picked by some little old Colombian man or something like that. My wife is real good about buying Fair Trade specialty coffee. So
awesome. Awesome. Anything anything good happened this week? Any good news?
Yeah, some good news. Well, in some of the lesser good news, I rescued a gardenia from the flower bed where the rabbits were eating it. Seems to be doing well in its new home.
Oh,
Mother's
nice.
Day went well. Everyone was happy. Got to spend time with my mother-in-law and my wife, obviously, and talk to some of the other women in my life. My grandmother and stepmom folks. So it was fun.
Excellent. Yeah, it is rabbit season.
Yeah.
Every season, like I'm always fishing out like 2 or 3 bunnies from my pool, like every year, like baby bunnies that fall in. So
yeah,
that sucks. I don't think they make it, but we try to save them. We try.
there you go.
Good morning, Tim Marshall. Tim Marshall's out there. He was on the show last week. CIO for DCCCD. Always forget that last C. So good morning, Tim. So quick before we get the show started. So dialed in to Elevate Exchange. Elevate Exchange is an IT community right here in the heart of DFW, but all of Texas, and it's open to anybody nationwide, really. But obviously, our love is right here for Dallas, Texas, and Texas as a whole. You can join Elevate Exchange by going online on the web, and then we do have just a quick announcement. There is a event coming up on June 4th, the next Elevate Exchange virtual happy hour. It's going to be June 4th, 2020, 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. It's an Exchange Shark Tank. So panel hosted by Rusty Kennington, the CIO for Corsicana Mattress Company, with guest panelists Brandy Holbert, Thomas Sweet, Patrick Benoit, and Elizabeth Hexel. So that'll be a great event to join. If you want to register for that, the link is right here. I will post this link in the comments as soon as possible. So I'll post this link for you so you can just click on it. But there's the link right there, bit.ly/EXJune4. So with that, let's get the show started. There will always be somebody stronger, faster, and smarter than you. Surviving depends on your adaptability to change. Those who are the most adaptable are dialed in. All right, welcome to the show, Mike Madero. I am joined by Mike Madero. He's the AVP of InfoSecurity for Mr. Cooper. He's served many roles across different organizations, including Southwest Airlines, and he is a man of InfoSecurity. Mike Madero, are you ready to get dialed in today?
Absolutely.
Awesome. So, Mike, on this show, we talk about being the most adaptable to change, and those who are completely dialed in. So, what is that thing that you are the most obsessed about, that thing that you are dialed into? You could talk about this for days. What is that for you?
For me, it's technology in general, and how things work, whether it's audio technology, camera technology, computer technology. And then on top of that, it's information security. And more how to break things. So a lot of times people kind of make fun of me. I'll look at something, and the first thing I figure out is, well, this is how it works. This is how I would take it apart. This is how I would get around it if it's something that's meant to keep me out or whatever. And this is how it works, and this is how I would tear it up. And hopefully put it back together if I need to.
Right. And within that, you would say that you are even more specifically obsessed with privileged access management. So can you
Yes.
break that down, dumb that down for us? What is that?
Right. So, a couple levels deeper from information security, I've been in identity management most recently, and then going into privileged access management on top of that. And the concept there is, if you take identity management, managing all the folks that have access to your environment, getting them turned on, getting them turned off, getting them pushed out to where they need to be. Privileged access management is actually getting your hands around all the super users, all your administrators, and even more is all your robotic IDs, all the IDs that let your applications talk to your data, where all your value tends to be, right? If you have financial data or health data or whatever it is that makes your business tick, these administrators or these robotic accounts tend to have access to all that and a fairly high level of it. And so privileged access management is how do you protect the keys to those vaults of data.
Got it.
In a nutshell.
Got it. Yeah. So we're going to talk about that today. We're going to talk about how to break things. We're going to talk about the pros and cons of being nice. I love that topic. And then we'll talk about the main point here is which you coined, lowering your risk, how to lower your risk by closing windows of opportunity, hence PAM, privileged access management. So let's kind of take it from the top here. So how to break things, right? So how did you get into IT? Like I think a lot of us get into the same way. Like you break things, right, and you fix things, and you fall in love with that process, right? So
yes,
tell us a little bit about that story, man.
Okay, so getting into IT, I obviously liked to play with technology. So I got a computer when I was very young, probably just out of high school. And remember my dad telling me how he'd, saved up, got this computer, little IBM PC compatible, made by Leading Edge. And he'd had it for a week, didn't know what it did, but he'd look at it and say, my son's going to use that computer, whatever. And then a week later, he saw me with that computer spread out all over the bed in various pieces, parts. And he said his face turned all sorts of shades of red because he saw this thing that he saved up for spread out all those places. Son, what are you doing? Like, oh, I'm upgrading it, Dad. I'm putting in some memory and putting in a hard drive, and because I don't need this other floppy. And he's like, you're going to put that back together, right? Because he'd seen some of my teardown projects. I was like, yeah, I got it. And so, and he came back an hour later and it was working. So he was happy I got to live and continue my career. After that, I kind of got into security in a lot of the same way. Obviously, I got some of my start in IT and on help desk, as a lot of us do. And the company was starting a security practice. And some of the leaders that had been in the technology group were in this group, and they called me and they said, hey, we'd like you to come join our security group. I said, okay, why? And he said, well, we noticed over the last year that you've been working here, you've been fixing problems that you don't have access to fix. We're not sure how you were doing it, but we know you were doing it. So we're going to bring you over here and kind of help you nurture the skill you obviously have and go from there.
So for you getting into InfoSecurity, it was a very organic thing. Like you didn't set out to get your CISSP first. You didn't plan this. You were just in this help desk role, and you just started fixing things that were cybersecurity related. You probably didn't even know a lot of those terms, right, at the time.
No, I knew there were things that were preventing me from helping people because there were other people that were busy that were supposed to fix things. And I was like, well, I got this person on the phone. If I could just do, here, let me, okay, here, there you go, fixed.
So you being on the other side of it. So on the other side of privileged access management, you did not have access to it, yet you still found a way because there are loopholes, right? And that's kind of, you broke your way in, which, but you broke your way in for a good reason.
Sure.
And that's how you learned, and that's how you became where you are now. So,
right.
And
then so, they got in on the attack and penetration track, learned more about breaking things and how to fix them. And that eventually took me to American Airlines, Southwest Airlines, where I started into identity, helping them onboard things. A lot of the folks want to use identity to enable the business to do things faster, get people access quicker, and a lot of the information security technologists want to. It's like, yeah, that's great. That's how we sell the project. So you let us spend money on this. But really, what we want to do is take the access away faster. Our interest is like, well, we need to. When people leave, we need that shutdown, that shutdown, that shutdown, because audit and compliance ultimately measure our success by how quickly we take stuff away, not by how quickly we get it. The business wants things fast, and that's always the case. Business always wants what they need now.
Yeah, and why do you think that's the case? Or I know, help us explain why it's important to remove somebody's access right away, or and on the flip side of that too, and maybe answer both of these. Having too much access. Like maybe your company brings in a consultant, and that consultant has too much access.
Yes, so there's a lot of times people have more access than even other folks realize. You may not realize someone has too much access. One of the reasons I was able to do what I did to get into security is because I had too much access. It didn't look like on the surface that I had too much access, but I did. And that let me, even though I didn't have the rights, the quote unquote rights to go fix some of the network problems, I did have the right to impersonate other network objects that did. So I was able to use some of that access to go do what I needed to do, not necessarily as myself, but as a network object. So there's things like that aren't quite as obvious. So when you talk about privileged access management, you're talking about two things: identifying the things that make somebody privileged. So you have to identify all the different attributes that give you a privileges or not, and then who has them. Then once you gather that, now you can start managing. Who has it for how long. Do they need to put in a request to escalate that? Because here's the thing: going back to the business wants things fast, which means as technologists, you have to be able to provide things fast. Me as a security professional, I can't go put so many roadblocks to where IT can't do their job. Otherwise, the next Mike Madero will figure out a way around it because they just want to do their job and help people, right?
Right.
So
right.
I have to make sure that whatever solutions I'm putting in place that are going to further my goals also help everybody else do their goals. So, I have to think about, well, what exists to automate some of these tasks? If I'm going to give them, 4 or 5 different tasks, what can I do to automate that? Like, yeah, you got to do this, this, and this, but here, you push this button and that happens. Oh, by the way, I know you have a goal that you want to, rotate these passwords on a regular basis, but you're afraid that, it'll break that app because you got to coordinate with these people. Well, tell you what, I'm going to give you an API that you can call programmatically, so that when you do have to change these things, you can do it during a monthly downtime. You push this button, automation kicks off, it rotates the passwords. The applications are already configured to point back to the password vault, if that's what you have, to go grab new credentials, and they're up and going, and you don't have to coordinate with that dev team, and that dev team, and do that. You're just doing your regular checkout time at the end of the window, and you're good. You look like you're, working miracles, rotating passwords. You're hitting your goals. I'm happy because my network is secure, and that kind of goes back to the window opportunity. So that opportunity, if any of those credentials got compromised in the meantime, I've now closed that window.
So essentially, like the way I see this is like, imagine your business is a hotel, and this is just the way that I see it. So imagine it's like a 30-floor hotel, right? And everyone that works there has a different role. They have access to different rooms. So you get in there, like you're an employee. Say you're an HR employee. You get in there, and you get your key card. You go to the elevator, and the HR floor is floor 10. So you get in the elevator. And even though there's 30 floors, the only floor that you see, there's only one button that you can see. It's 10. You press 10 because that's the card that you were given. You get to floor 10, and maybe there's 100 rooms on floor 10, but you're assigned to room 1001. So when you get down that hallway, it's a long hallway full of no doors, only one. And that door is your door. It's your access. Right. So that way you don't even know that there's anything else. I mean, you know that there is, but you can't see it. you can't
Right.
see anything else in the building.
The
That's the
only,
way that I see PAM. Is that far off?
to a certain extent, yeah, that is how that goes. Because one of the things you'll typically do is you'll give everybody the way to get to what they need with their regular user ID. You don't want people working their normal day-to-day with their privileged ID. You only want them, walking around the hotel and using the elevators, as you say, with their normal human ID. So that way, yeah, this is the only elevator I can use. This is the only hallway I can take. That's the only door I can use. Now, once they get to something where they actually need to do with an elevated privilege, let's say, that's when you would push the button. The button says, okay, yes, you're authorized to use this button, or yes, you are, but you need this other person to agree with you. And then once those conditions are met, you can proceed. That's how all that really works. For applications, is no different. An application is assigned a key, so this application is allowed to get that key to that data set, and no other. So that's kind of how you mitigate all that.
Excellent. So, what do you see working well in PAM right now, and what do you see coming? Like, what are you excited about?
Well, what I see working is more and more things are getting enabled to do more of that programmatic retrieval of credentials. Especially with the DevOps wave, a lot of those things are depending on your platform. A lot of those things are kind of built in. You're encouraged to build your application to be aware of a key vault, to check out keys or whatever, to call an API or to get to your database or what have you. So you're not forced to store your credentials in your code, which tends to be in clear text. So people can just read, hey, here's the ID they're using to hit their database. Here's the password. It's a hard DB password.
Yeah.
And it's those things are making it a lot easier for people to do the right things, and make life ultimately easier on themselves for creating change, right? Because anytime you're changing a password, you're changing something fundamental about the way an application works, which is why so many developers and admins don't want to do it. They don't want the system to go down. They don't want somebody in the business ringing their phone saying, hey, why is the thing down? It needs to be back up now. It's like, well, I was trying to be secure. Like, fix it. So, you give them the tools to do what they need to do so they can do it quickly and meet their obligations and satisfy security as well.
Yeah. So for the rest of us that all hate passwords, what do you have for us? Like, what do you suggest for us? Like,
for just you and me, for
the world hates passwords. Like,
yeah.
So what do you suggest we could do to ease the pain?
Get a password manager.
Yeah.
There are a whole bunch of them out there. There's LastPass. There's Dashlane. There's a lot of the virus tools like are starting to wrap some of those into their offerings as well. And what it'll let you do is there's a plugin for your browser. Some of them have a plugin for your desktop, so that when you launch a new application, it says, okay, what's going to be your user ID and password for this one? So the first time you log in, it says, okay, I'm going to save it, and it's saved in a cloud storage, so you can access it from your phone, your tablet, your desktop, or what have you. And no matter where you need these credentials, you no longer have to remember them. You just have to remember, hopefully, a really good long passphrase to unlock your vault when you need it. And that can be accessed through thumbprint now. A lot of the phones and stuff we have multi-factor built into them. So the excuses have kind of gone away. If I can get my wife to use something like this, and she is the most technologically adverse person ever, I've been disallowed to get her anything for a present that either has a on-off switch or that plugs into the wall.
Nice.
Can't do it.
My biggest gripe right now, my biggest annoyance is that Face ID doesn't work with my mask on. So now I actually have to know my passwords, or I have to actually, copy paste from one of my password managers.
Get this
Oh,
into the
question from Brad Bleak from LinkedIn. What about flexibility PAM provides across on-prem versus cloud?
So a lot of the ones are actually building that in. You can't be a player anymore with just offerings for data center on-prem. You have to be able to talk to Azure. You have to be able to talk to Amazon, and now Google's starting to challenge as well. So I mean, a lot of the tool sets are starting to be more have a lot more API interworking, so that all these tools can make RESTful API calls to enable all these functions, to enable password vaulting, to enable password rotation. So it's really it's not getting to where you have to say, well, okay, I need this for my on-prem. What am I going to do up there in the cloud? Do I have to buy another tool? Is there going to be a lot of difficulty in integrating? And the other thing to consider is a lot of these tools will now also load balance or give you some resiliency between on-prem and cloud as well. Because the last thing you want in a crisis is to not be able to get to your passwords.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Because your face mask is blocking it.
Right.
Yeah. Of course. With the perimeter, right? The perimeter is like this ever expanding thing. I'm talking about like your workplace perimeter. It used to be like on-prem, now it's on cloud, now it's here, now it's remote workforce, now it's everywhere. Now everybody is everywhere. How in the heck do you control that? How do you what's the methodology behind like being able to stay ahead of that? Because it's changing every single day.
Yeah, it's difficult. It used to be easy. Long time ago, you couldn't access the internal network unless you had you had to have a laptop, and you had to know somebody in IT that would give you access to the VPN so you could dial in and be on the network. Now, that's changed so far, and we went to now you have a BlackBerry, and that's still controlled centrally on a BlackBerry server. But then we got iPhones. Well, no, I don't want to use that BlackBerry. BlackBerry's horrible. I want to use my iPhone. And the problem is the execs are the ones that had the iPhones. So you couldn't just tell, Mike, the manager over there, like, well, no, you need to use a Bez and keep your iPhone off right now. No, Joe CEO says, make my iPhone work.
Right.
And so that kind of opened up the floodgates, really. So now you have iPhones, Androids, tablets, and so you have the problem you mentioned, the BYOD situation. So, there's a lot of endpoint solutions out there, obviously, that will let you install a client or let you have people register their devices to your network. And basically, a lot of them involve sharing either a certificate or what have you. Even the laptops these days, IT organizations are installing certificates on them. So even when you VPN in, if those VPN credentials had been compromised, you have to have an IT issued device with a IT issued certificate to get on. And so you kind of have to still manage it that way. Most of these solutions will let you even say, hey, has that device been rooted? Did someone jailbreak their iPhone or root their Android or what have you, to deny those devices access if they've been compromised, and have they been patched, things like that. That one's I pulled out an older device, maybe about a year old, because I wanted to let my son mess with it, and it still had the corporate email app on there. Bad me, I didn't wipe it immediately, but it came back and it said, hey, we can't get on, your phone's not patched, it might be rooted. It's like, no, it just hasn't phoned home in about a year. So but that's an example of things that kind of protect you, and they're fairly pervasive these days, as far as endpoint protection solutions.
Okay, awesome.
I'm not sure that answered your question.
Oh yeah, no, it did for sure. So Another question from Tim Marshall in LinkedIn. He said, "So is SSO single sign-on still appropriate given pervasive nature of password hackers?" It's a great question.
It is a great question. So I would say you have to do more with your single sign-on solution. It's no longer enough to say, okay, this user ID and this password works everywhere. Again, there are a number of MFA solutions that have gotten really, really easy to use. One of the things I used to tell a lot of the, for years, when you go to a IT con and you get a single sign-on, or not a single MFA solution vendor, and you're talking to you, and they'll say, hey, you should do this, you do this. Like, well, can your solution do push notifications for MFA? And they say, well, we're not quite there yet. Like, well, you know what? My MFA solution for my Warcraft game, it does that.
Right.
Yours should too.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing. Again, if it's too hard to use, people won't use it. I tried to push MFA out in a hospital setting. Guess what doctors don't want to do when they're getting ready to put in notes? Well, one, they don't want to put in notes, much less log in, much less use your little widget to verify that it's them entering the notes and not somebody else on their behalf. So, if you make it too hard, people won't want to use it. So back to the SSO question, there are enough MFA vendors and solutions out there that make it very easy to deploy, whether it's on somebody's mobile phone. Some people say, well, I don't have a mobile phone. It's like, really? Okay, I guess, maybe, perhaps. You can get it via email. A lot of them will default to SMS. I know SMS isn't the most secure thing, but it's better than, I don't have an N95 mask to go out everywhere, but the scarf or the whatever you got is better than nothing. This is better than nothing. And if you're, if you want to talk about risk versus window of opportunity, the risk of SMS is that, yes, that message can be intercepted and used. However, narrowing the window of opportunity should only be good once. So once you've gotten that text and you've used it, it should no longer be valid. That just closed the window. So,
right.
That's what we're looking for, right?
Yeah, I agree with you on the SMS. I do not subscribe to that. I don't think you should use SMS too. But like you said, if that's all you have is a scarf, that's better than nothing, right?
Yeah. So, but a lot of the duos of the world, Microsoft's is even pretty easy to use these days. Just hope that it's up. And there's other things that you can put out. RSA's been out there forever. They've changed their platform from the old school tokens, hopefully. And there are things you can incorporate into your SSO solution so that it's not just ID and password. You're not just having to worry about people using this password here.
So for me, the introduction of the spacebar inside of a password kind of changed my life. Because if you think about passwords, right? Passwords are ridiculously they could be ridiculously easy, or if we use these password managers, they're ridiculously hard for us to remember, but they're easy to crack. Fairly easy to crack, right? But then you add the space bar and you turn it into a passphrase.
Yes.
A little bit harder to crack.
Yes.
It's a little bit harder because that space bar throws things for a loop a little bit.
Well, it changes the game.
And it could be easier to remember.
Yeah.
Passphrase versus password. What do you think about that?
Well, here, let me give you a little bit on that. So I did some math. I do sometimes.
Oh, you do math? No way.
Yeah, an 8 character password, all lowercase. I'll just take this very basic use case.
Yep.
About 3 hours or so to crack. All right.
And that's probably old. That's probably old news at this point, right?
Yeah, no, that's pretty recent.
So that's accurate. 3 hours. Okay.
Yeah, about 3 hours. Because I just did this about a week or so ago. I was looking something else up. So either the website was out of date or it's, things change fast, and I know. But so 9 character password that took you up to, instead of hours, it was more like either weeks or months. 10 characters and still all lowercase, not even complexity, because that throws another order of magnitude higher. So 10 characters goes up from days and months to maybe a year or so. And then 11, well, now you're up to quite a number of years. 12, now you're up to, I think it was a century or so. 13 and 14, now you're several centuries,
Really?
right? So again, if you talk about your risk, okay, what is the risk of a password compromise, right? Well, someone's either got my password or someone's cracked my password. Well, how long is that information good for? Well, if all they have is a hash, well, now they have to go crack it. If it takes, even, months or a year to crack, yet I change my password every month or every 2 months, I've closed my window of opportunity. So, okay, fine. You've compromised the hash or whatever. Now, if you got the whole password because I use the same password everywhere, and you broke into Yahoo and got it, and Yahoo took 2 years to let me know. Well, they've actually wedged my window wide open.
Right. So what's the appropriate character length then? Now, I mean, that's a tough question to answer, but what do you?
It is. I would say that if you go back, there are sites that'll tell you how long it would take different computers in different eras to crack the same thing, and it looks like every 5 years or so, it goes from like a millennia to a century or something like that. So there's every 5 years or so, there is an order of magnitude will go away because technology's advanced or what have you, right?
Yeah.
So, but over the years, a 15 to 16 character password's been pretty good, especially if you're introducing, alphas, numerics, special characters, upper, lower, white space.
So
Yeah,
your opinion, 15 plus might be the magic number, but
that's
you probably don't need to go to 32.
Well, here's the thing. You could. Not all systems may support that.
That's true. Yeah. Not all systems support the spacebar, which makes me sad.
You're right. And one of the things that came up, I recall a time that somebody wanted to set a security policy. Said, "Hey, we want the minimum length of a password to be 25 characters," and then the Windows team had to call back and say, "Hey, the max we can set the minimum to is 20."
Wow.
Can't enforce your policy. Sorry. We should enforce up to 20.
Yeah.
We can still set something harder, but the highest we can set the minimum to is 20.
Yeah. So you're no matter what, you're still always going to be subject to what you have available, the resource you have available.
There are technological limitations in every case.
Yep.
But if you set it at a sufficient level, and you now have an ability to change this, because a lot of these password managers we mentioned earlier will let you change these things easily. They'll even remind you, "Hey, it looks like it's time to change your password. Want me to do that for you?" And yeah, sure, let's go do that.
Right.
Generate a new password. You never knew the first password anyway, so
there you go.
Yeah, sure, knock stuff out.
Curry Nichols has a question. Sorry. So Curry on LinkedIn. Good morning, sir. He says, "Have you looked at Open Identity Server, and what are your thoughts about the open source solutions versus buying SaaS, MFA, and SSO solutions?"
Sure. A lot of the you want to talk some of the open platforms. They're very good, especially if you have the development resources to throw at them, and the time to figure them out and diligence to keep after them and go for them, and support them and manage them. A lot of what the COTS vendors and stuff offer over those is usually an easier avenue to manage them, especially if you have a lot of it, right? And you have a lot of different things out there. Now, there are ways to develop and automate on your own, but you're basically in charge of all the orchestration and all the centralization and management. And when someone calls to say, "Hey, look, I need an audit trail of everything that happened from here to here," that's all on you. Right. And for a lot of folks, that's fine. They prefer it that way, and there's nothing wrong with it. It's encryption's encryption, security is security. A lot of these open source do their own audits. So, if those things are in place, they're doing their due diligence, you're doing yours, trust but verify. it's all good. Just there's always a single throat to choke, and with the open source, that one tends to be yours. You don't have a vendor you can go say, hey, I need this back up.
Oh yeah. Good point. Good point about open source stuff. That's on you if you use open source.
Yeah, and again, for a lot of folks, that's fine. And some folks, hey, that's what my budget lets me do, and that's what you got.
So Mike, what are the pros and cons of being nice? The saying goes, you can catch more flies with honey than with vinegar. But
exactly.
We all know the pros. Well, I'll let you take it away. What are the pros and cons?
Well, pros and cons. Things are a lot easier if you're nice. I could try to, break through a firewall, go around this intrusion section or intrusion prevention system, and try to access data. Or I can convince you to loan me your password by being very nice so that I can impersonate you and get that data, or get on the system and escalate my privileges and get the data. So yeah, it's always been easier in information security, especially if you're on the dark side, to just be nice to people. They'll help you get what you want almost 100% of the time. People are pre-wired to be nice and be helpful. If you walk up to a door with an arm full of stuff, odds are that if someone's there that sees you, they're gonna, hey, let me open the door for you. Let me get that other one for you. Here you go. Hey, you need me to get? Hey, don't try to dig your badge out of here. Let me badge you in with mine. And all right, have a good day.
And take a donut. You may not even have had a badge to that building, right?
Yeah. So, one of the things we do through security awareness is, hey, it's good to be nice. Let's draw some lines around how nice you are. Go ahead, get the door, let them into the lobby, escort them to the security desk where they could set their armload of stuff down and get registered to get in. And don't badge them into the security areas.
Right.
Things like that. Yes, we know that this guy called and you're the wrong number, but you really want to help him get to the person he wanted to call, the CIO. Yeah, let me give you his number. In fact, here's a department listing, everyone's number in there. Let me get you that. Don't do that. We like vendors, but they usually know how to get in touch with the people they need to get a hold of. And if they don't, then you probably don't need to help them.
Right. Yep. No, absolutely. Lionel has a question. He says, how do you increase, from LinkedIn, Lionel Bailey Jr. Thank you, sir. How do you increase the adoption rate of PAM with developers and IT?
Let's see, lots of food. Free food. Bring them into to work sessions with free food, and kind of show them what the end looks like. Now, here's the thing. I know in a lot of cases that's not always possible. You don't always have the system stood up, or maybe you're just starting, and
maybe we're in a pandemic.
Yeah.
Bring free food.
But they need to be part of the solution. They need to be part of the development process. What do they need? What is on their wish list? And then, if possible, make that part of the POC. Let them participate in any kind of POC, so they can vet what those requirements are. Get their part of the wish too, because then now they're advocating along with you, and they're waiting for the end goal. So a lot of times dev teams they'll kind of give you the Heisman, where no, we don't have time. We're in this other sprint, and we got 3 other sprints on the schedule. We don't have time to work that in. But if this is really going to help their goals, and we can find what we have in common, where our common goals lie, and they're looking forward to it as much as you are, then they'll find time in their sprints, hopefully.
So with adding more people to the POC, that extends the length of time that it's going to take to evaluate. So how would you circumvent that?
Well, I wouldn't add them as an additional step. You make them part of the core team, so they got skin in the game right up front. So they're evaluating along with you. They're giving questions that maybe you hadn't thought of. They're hearing your questions that maybe they hadn't thought of. And so all these things are kind of coming together at the same time. Yeah, it might add a little bit more time to your timeline, because there's obviously maybe a few more use cases that you hadn't thought of, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. And odds are the vendor isn't going to have to go start from scratch on each one of your use cases. They're just waiting. Hey, so give me your worst. Let me show you what I got. They're all waiting for that. So chances are, whether it's your questions or the other team's questions, they're waiting to hear what you have for them so they can show you where they shine. Now, they can't do that, then hopefully you have more vendors in your POC. One of them should come up with what you're looking for. And ultimately that's why you do a POC, right?
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Or bake off.
Well, Mike, I appreciate everything so far. What would you ask me that I haven't asked you already? Making sure this is my question. Make sure I didn't miss anything here.
What would I ask me? I guess. Well, what would my advice be for me? Maybe 10, 20 years ago.
Oh, I was going to ask that one actually, but yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
So, my advice for me, maybe 20 years ago, is make sure we're taking the time to listen to people around us. A lot of times we get real wrapped up in our credentials, right? I'm the expert of everything I know. But a lot of times we forget about the dummies. When you're making something dummy proof, and invariably some dummy comes along and blows up your house of cards. Sometimes it helps to listen to the dummy, because there is such thing as an idiot savant. Or someone like me, maybe 25, 30 years ago, who just likes to break things. And they see something like, looking at it from over here, it looks like that right there might be a problem. See that vent hole, that's no larger than a womp rat. That might be a problem.
Awesome. So Mike, what is the best business book you've ever read?
The best business book I've ever read. Well, I still haven't read a whole lot of business books, unfortunately. But I will tell you, a lot of the reading that I do that's business related tends to be periodicals or information security periodicals. I will read a lot of the articles from the SANS Institute. I do like to read a lot of things from SC magazine, and generally a lot of the things I'm looking for, in and apart from just hear what's the latest way people are tearing systems up and what I need to be looking for, is advice on how to present your risk arguments, right? Ultimately, we all have to get our toys bought, and we don't always control our own purse strings. So we have to be able to convince someone who does control the purse strings, that doesn't have the same perspective that we do, that hey, you know what? It might be a good idea to let me have a chunk of your money so I can go protect this, and here's how it's going to benefit you. The part where here's how it benefits you if you lower this risk is always going to help you close a window. There we go.
So with that, Mike, I appreciate you for being on the show today. Thank you so much. And thank you to everybody who had questions. We answered them all on the show here. Thank you for that. And with that, that's a wrap. We'll catch you guys next Tuesday, 8 a.m. with Elizabeth Hexel. So tune in next Tuesday, 8 a.m. with Elizabeth Hexel. So with that, Mike, thank you so much, sir. Appreciate it.
Thanks a bunch, Kyle. Take care.
Cool. Thank you, guys.